here we are in the middle of 2025 and mortgage rates still haven't improved. The Fed's still in a tough position and won't budge, but what if I told you we don't need them? What if we could lower rates and address home affordability without them? How? Well, stick around and find out. Today, let's dive into one of the biggest and most controversial stories that most people don't even know about, which is the saga of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the GSEs, and why their forced government takeover still matters to every American realtor and lender out there. See, back in 2008, the housing market was crumbling. Fannie and Freddie, like every other player in the mortgage game, were hit hard. The government stepped in and said, hey, we're here to help and we're going to keep the system afloat. But was it really a rescue mission or was it a government cash grab? Let's break it down. At the time, Fannie and Freddie did have big losses, but many experts argue they weren't insolvent. Think of it like a store that hits a rough quarter. You don't shut them down if they have inventory in demand. But the government decided to take control through something called conservatorship. The idea was to stabilize the housing market, but in reality, Fannie and Freddie were forced to hand over a chunk of their equity in exchange for a $190 billion bailout from the Treasury. Here's where it gets interesting though. Listen up. Since that 2008 rescue, Fannie and Freddie have paid back the government over $300 billion in dividends. That's a hell of a lot more than the $190 billion they received. So imagine you loan your buddy $10, he pays you back $20, but you go back to him and say, hey man, you still owe me $20. Confusing, right? That's because of the net worth sweep, an agreement in 2012 that said every dollar of profit Fannie and Freddie made would go straight to the Treasury, not to pay down their actual principal bailout. Yeah, some real gangster. It's like every time your buddy mows your lawn to pay you back, you just say, cool, thanks man, you still owe me $20 though. Today on paper, Fannie and Freddie's net worth is about $160 billion combined. But what is the government's senior preferred claim? Well, it's $348 billion and growing. That's the tab they're stuck with, not because of the unpaid principal balance, but because of the rules of this unique structure. And yes, unique is a nice way to put it. It's like trying to pay off a credit card when the balance keeps growing every time you make a payment. Sounds crazy, right? But that's the structure we're dealing with. This is why reprivatizing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, one of our 2025 wildcards, is nearly impossible without a major overhaul. If they tried to go public and pay the government back in full, they need to raise over $500 billion. That's more than every IPO in the United States over the last decade combined. So why does this matter to you? Well, Fannie and Freddie play a huge role in the housing market. They guarantee most of the mortgages in America. When they're stuck under government control, they're essentially tools for government policy versus being true advocates for home ownership, and not independent companies that can innovate or compete. For realtors and lenders, that means more red tape and less flexibility. For homeowners, it can be higher costs and potentially less mortgage choices and products. And for the economy as a whole, it means that these massive cash cows can't reinvest in ways that could improve home ownership for everyone. That's the big one to me, guys. They could reinvest profits to help Americans or lower LLPAs to help homeowners and buyers, but they can't due to this hard money agreement with the government. That's a problem. The debate isn't whether Fannie and Freddie are profitable. They are. The question is whether the government should keep using them as a cash machine or let them thrive as private companies again. If the GSEs were privatized and the government let go of that $348 billion claim, we could see more lending competition, better rates, and more innovation in housing finance. It's a tough decision with a lot of moving parts, but understanding this forced takeover and the net worth sweep and the towering senior preferred claim is key to seeing how mortgage markets work today and how they could work better tomorrow. There's just not enough content or discussion around this, and I'm honestly surprised that the NBA and NAR aren't all over this, but that's where you guys come in. If they won't advocate for us, then we'll have to do it on our own. We need to shed some light on this. We need to amplify our voice by sharing this with everyone in our offices and then plead with their advocacy groups to do just that and unwind this entire situation. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think the GSEs should be freed up, or should the government stay in control and continue to rank in that dough? See you in the comment section.